All right, fifth graders. Well, we are continuing right along here in chapter 6, getting into lesson 6.6 today, and we're going to be dividing by two-digit divisors. Now, when we do this, a recommendation that I make is that we take this two-digit number and we round it to the greatest place value. Now, rounding to the greatest place value is not a new idea. The 9 is way to the left. The 3, 5 unless I round down, so the 9 stays a 9. And I'm going to think about 90, but more specifically, I'm going to think about the smaller number 9. And I'm going to explain to you why I do this. It's because this idea, I know that 93 cannot go into 8. I know that 93 cannot go into 89. But I do know that 93 can go into 895. The problem is I'm just not sure how many times it can do that. And I don't want to just be randomly guessing a bunch of numbers. So I use smaller numbers that are easier to work with. And in this case, I know that 9 can't go into 8, but 9 can go into 89. Not evenly, but it can go into it. We're not worried about it going evenly. And I think that the number of times that 9 can go into 89 is the same or very close to the same number of times that 93 can go into 895. And so that's just a way to avoid this random guessing. Now I know from my times tables, and here I go again putting in another plug for why it's important to know your times tables. Because if you know your times tables well, you know that 9 can go into 89 9 times, because 9 times 9 is 81, 9 times 10 is 90. So the first thing you're going to try is 93 times 9. This is not a guarantee that this works, but it at least is going to get you a lot closer, and you don't want to just be randomly guessing. So I'm going to do 93 times 9, because 93 is still the number I'm dividing by, which means it's the number I need to multiply by. 9 times 3 is 27. Put the 7 down, carry the 2. 9 times 9 is 81. Plus 2 is 83. I get 837. Now I have to make a decision as to whether or not I want to put a 9 up here and 837 down here. And I'm going to say I do, because I can't get any bigger than 9. Plus, if I did 93 times 10, 93 times 1 is 93. Add the 0, 930. That's too big. So I'm going to go ahead with 9, 837. Can't do 5 minus 7. Borrow from the 9, make it an 8. Make the 5 a 15. 15 minus 7 is 8. 8 minus 3 is 5. 8 minus 8 is nothing. And remember that order. That order in this is not changing. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, start over. That order does not change. So, and I'm okay with 58 after I subtract, because 58 is less than 93. There's nothing left to bring down, so that 58 is my remainder, and that's okay. I can have 58 left over when I'm dividing into groups of 93, because 58 is less than 93. All right, let's look at this next one. 636 divided by 21. Well, once again, I'm going to round this to the greatest place value. 21 is going to become 20. The 1 tells me to round down, so the 2 stays a 2. I'm going to think about the smaller number 2. And I know that 21 can't go into 6, but I do know that 21 can go into 63. And I'm going to think that the number of times that 2 can go into 6 is the same or very close to the same number of times that 21 can go into 63. Well, I know that 2 can go into 6 3 times. So I'm going to come over here to the side, and I'm going to try 21 times 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. And I like that, because I actually get 63. It goes in perfectly. So I know that's right. 21 can go into 63 3 times. I put my 3 above the 3. Very important. I don't want to put it above the 6, because it's not 21 going into 6 3 times. I put it above the 3 because it's 21 going into 63 3 times. 21 times 3 is 63. 63 minus 63 is 0. I bring down the 6. Remember, when I bring down, I have to start over again, which means I have to divide, which means I have to put a number up here. And a common mistake that is made, this is why I put a problem like this in the video, is we go is students go to this point and then they just write remainder 6. You can't do that. You brought down, so you have to start over. So you have to divide, which means you have to put a number up here. 21, how many times can 21 go into 6? Well, it can't. 21 cannot go into 6 because it's bigger. So I put a 0. Now if I want to, I can put 0 times 21 is 0, and then I'd have 6 minus 0 is 6. I don't need you to do that. However, if that's better for you, that's fine. As long as you put the 0 up here, you should be able to realize now that, well, 0 times 21 is 0, 6 minus 0 is 6. You're going to have 6 left over. Or from here, you can see that and just go ahead and put remainder 6. But if you want to do the 0 times 21 is 0, 6 minus 0 is 6. If that helps you, that's fine. But as long as you remember to put the 0 up here, you can just kind of skip all this and just make sure you put your remainder 6. All right, we're going to have a total of 5 problems that we're going to walk through. So we're just going to kind of finish these up. Okay, now I'm going to round 56 to the greatest place value. I think that's going to be 60 because the 5 is in the greatest place value and the 6 tells me to round up, which means the 5 becomes a 6, everything else becomes a 0. And I'm going to think about the smaller number 6. Now I know that 56 cannot go into 7, but I am pretty sure that 56 can go into 78. And I think that the number of times that 6 can go into 7 is the same number of times that 56 can go into 78. Well, 6 can go into 7 one time. I know that 56 times 1 is 56. So I have to make a decision if I want to put the 1 above the 8 and a 56 here, or do I want to go bigger? Well, I know that 50 times 2 is 100. So when I do 56 times 2, I'm going to get a number bigger than 100. So I'm going to say I'm pretty okay with the 1. And it goes above the 8 to say that 56 can go into 78 one time. 1 times 56 is 56. 78 minus 56, 8 minus 6 is 2. 7 minus 5 is 2. I'm going to bring the 4 down. And I'm okay with 22 after I subtract because it's less than 56. I'm going to bring the 4 down. And I'm going to think to myself, well, okay, how many times now can 56 go into 224? So I'm going to use the smaller numbers. 6 cannot go into 2, but 6 can go into 22. Maybe not evenly, but that doesn't matter. 6 can go into 22 4 times. No, sorry, that's wrong. 6 can go into 22 3 times. 6 times 4 is 24. That's bigger than 22. 6 can go into 22 3 times. So I need to try 56 times 3. Well, so I do 56 times 3. 3 times 6 is 18. Put the 8 down, carry the 1. 3 times 5 is 15. Plus the 1 is 16. I get 168. This is what we call decision time, 5th graders with division. I have to make a decision. Do I want to put a 3 up here and a 168 down here, or do I think I need a different number? Now, if I need a different number than 3, there's only 2 possible problems that I have. Either the 3 is too big or the 3 is too small. Well, clearly the 3 is not too big because you only get 168, and the number that I'm working with is 224. So if anything, it's too small. Now, off the top of my head, most of us are not going to know what the difference is between 224 and 168. So in this situation, I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure whether 3 and 168 is what I want. When we're not sure, we always go ahead and try the next number. Because if we start putting wrong numbers in here, we may erase something, we may get confused. It's better to figure out everything over here before we're writing things. So I think maybe there's a possibility that this 3 is too small. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to try 56 times 4. Notice I'm not erasing this. I never recommend erasing scratch work while you're still in a problem 5th grade, because at some point, especially in long division, you may wish you had that problem again. And so you may want that information of what that is, and it saves you some time from having to do the problem later. But anyway, back to 56 times 4. 4 times 6 is 24. Put the 4 down, carry the 2. 4 times 5 is 20, plus the 2 is 22. Well, I like that because 224 is a perfect match with 224. So I'm glad I didn't write 3 and 168. I'm going to go ahead and put my 4. I figured out that 4 times 56 was 224. I subtract those. I know I'm going to end up with 0, and I'm totally fine ending up with 0 when I'm dividing by 56. Sometimes you're not going to get a remainder, and it's going to work out perfectly. And that answer there is 14. All right, we got a couple more that we're going to look at here for lesson 6.6. 2,451 divided by 43. Well, once again, we're going to think 43. I want to round that. I think that's going to round to 40 because the 4 is in the greatest place value. The 3 tells me to round down because anything less than 5, I round down. So my 4 stays a 4. It becomes 40. I know that 43 cannot go into 2. I know that 43 is bigger than 24. But I do know that 43 can go into 245. I want to figure out how many times. Well, 4 cannot go into 2, but it can go into 24 6 times. And I think the number of times that 4 can go into 24 is the same number or very close to the same number of times that 43 can go into 245. Well, I know that 4 times 6 is 24. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to try 43 times 6. That's where I'm going to start. Now, when I do this, 6 times 3 is 18. Put the 8 down, carry the 1. 6 times 4 is 24, plus the 1 is 25. I get 258. Well, I don't like that too much because 258 is bigger than 245. So that tells me that my 6 is too big. If my 6 is too big, logically, I go to 43 times 5. I go to 1 less. 5 times 3 is 15. Put the 5 down, carry the 1. 5 times 4 is 20, plus the 1 is 21. I get 215. And I'm going to be pretty okay with that because I don't want to get any smaller because that's already smaller than 245. And I know if I go up to 6, it's too big. So I'm going to put a 5 above my 5 because it's 43 going into 245 5 times. I've already established that 43 times 5 is 215. So now it's time to subtract. Remember, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, start over. 5 minus 5 is 0. 4 minus 1 is 3. 2 minus 2 is nothing. So I end up with 30. 30 is smaller than 43, so I'm okay with that because I always like to end up with a number that's less than what I'm dividing by in long division. So after I subtract, I bring down. So we're going to bring down the 1. And I'm going to be thinking, okay, how many times can 43 go into 301? Well, I know that 4 can go into 30 7 times. So I want to try 43 times 7. I already know that 43 times 6 is 258. That's kind of in that middle of the land. I'm not sure. So let's figure that out. So let's try 43 times 7. So we'll come down here, 43 times 7, just because we know that 4 can go into 37 times. 7 times 3 is 21. Put the 1 down, carry the 2. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 2 is 30. I get 301. Well, I like that because that's a perfect match with my 301 here. So 43 can go into 301 7 times. I've already proven down here that 43 times 7 is 301. When I subtract them, none left over. Sometimes you're not going to get a remainder. There's nothing left to bring down. My final answer is 57. All right, one more. This is the last one. 3,741 divided by 64. Well, the 64 is going to round to 60, and I'm going to use the smaller number 6. 6 is in the greatest place value. 4 and less, I round down. So the 6 stays a 6. It becomes 60. I know that 64 can't go into 3. I know that 64 can't go into 37. It's bigger than 37. But it can go into 374. It's a matter of figuring out how many times. I know that 6 can go into 37 6 times. So the first thing I'm going to try is 64 times 6. Well, 6 times 4 is 24. Put the 4 down, carry the 2. 6 times 6 is 36. Plus 2 is 38. Well, that's a little bit of a problem because 384 is bigger than 374. So my 6 is too big. So logically, I'm going to try 64 times 5 and see what that is. 5 times 4 is 20. Put the 0 down, carry the 2. 5 times 6 is 30. Plus 2 is 32. I get 320. Well, I know that 6 is too big, so I know that I want to go with the 5 and 320. I'm going to put the 5 here above the 4 because it's 64 going into 374 5 times. So it's very important where you put these numbers up top. We've already established down here that 64 times 5 is 320. When I go to subtract, 4 minus 0 is 4. 7 minus 2 is 5. I know that 3 minus 3 is nothing. I end up with 54, and I know that's okay because that's less than 64. So I'm good with that. 1, bring my 1 down, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to figure out now how many times 64 can go into 541. Well, I know that 6 can go into 54 9 times. So the first thing I'm going to try is 64 times 9. Well, because I know that 6 times 9 is 54, so I'm going to try 9. 9 times 4 is 36. Put the 6 down, carry the 3. 9 times 6 is 54, plus the 3 is 57. I see that's not going to work because 576 is clearly bigger than 541. So if 9 is too big, I want to try 8, so I'm going to come over here. 5th graders, you can't be afraid to do some scratch work with long division. You got to be willing just to go and do the work. 8 times 4 is 32. Put the 2 down, carry the 3. 8 times 6 is 48, plus the 3 is 51. I'm feeling pretty good about that because I know 9's too big. So I'm feeling pretty good about 8 and 112. So we're going to say that 64 can go into 541 8 times. We've already established that 64 times 8 is 512. So 64 times 8 is 512. 1 minus 2 I can't do, so I'm going to borrow from the 4. I'm going to make that a 3, make that 1 and 11. 11 minus 2 is 9. 3 minus 1 is 2. I know that 5 minus 5 is nothing. I end up with 29. All right, and I'm okay ending up with 29 after I subtract when I'm dividing by 64. There's nothing left to bring down, so this 29 is going to be a remainder, and that remainder is fine because it's smaller than 64. 58, remainder 29. I'm feeling pretty good about that. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.